Chapter 8, Thrown to the Wolves. The wolves. Wolves? Wolves? Wolves. I like wolves. Once you exit the hospital, you start walking back toward your neighborhood. You don't have a specific destination in mind, you're just glad to be out of there. You're clean, your clothes don't stink, and the worst of your injuries have been fixed up. You don't feel great, but you're ambulatory. You suck in deep breaths of air-free hospital scent. As it darkens toward evening, you realize that you've lost most of the day. Your thoughts drift toward where you're going to spend the night. You could do a reprise of last night and see if the unit's right. We already read this, didn't we? Hold on a tick, guys. So, they had a rough start in the beginning. I just showed you. I clearly, for some reason, it hadn't saved my playthrough of Chapter 8, and so I was like, oh shoot, gotta play it back up. I apparently made a different decision at some point. I think I accidentally chose to attack Tiny with speed first, which instantly knocked me out, and now I'm here, with Lucy hitting on me, which I'm pretty dang sure I'd remember if that happened. I think I'm gonna go with it, though. So she hit on me, she's bandaging my wounds or something. She seems to find her discomfort amusing. She chuckles to herself and shakes her head, then she trails her finger across the side of your face. What voice did I choose for her? Oh yeah, she's Russian, right? I like you, fool. Her finger on your face trails equal parts danger and excitement. This was not where you expected your meeting with the Alpha to go. I'm interested to see exactly where she's going with this. You start to say, but I was just in a fight with... Your words become garbled as her finger finds the side of your mouth and slips inside, her claw tracing lightly on your tongue. Okay, that's anti-hot. I'm completely unaroused now. And how is that not exciting? She whispers to you. If you had any doubt about her intent, the scent of her spreading lust dispels it. I chomp the finger and push her off me. That's it. It's gonna play rough. You bite down, causing her to bark in pain. Then you push as hard as you can while backpedaling away from her. Not in this universe, you snarl, tensing for another fight. However, she doesn't attack you. She stands, staring at you, idly shaking her hand as if she was trying to dry it. She stares at you, head cocked, for several moments. You feel as if the air itself becomes more viscous with tension, catching in your lungs, burning your throat. Your heart hammers in your ears. Then she snorts and laughs. I like you. We could really have some fun, fool. I don't think so, you whisper. Hey, I wasn't trying to push her away. All the way away. Just, teasing her along a little bit. So I can manipulate her. That's the plan, right? Let me know if you think better of that, she says. You are lost otherwise. Cool, the door's not completely closed. After your time with Lucy, a nice ambiguous beginning, she delivers you to a small outbuilding attached to the warehouse. Inside waits a wizened old ferret. Okay, I remember this. We strip. After Chapter 9, the Damned Saints. Okay, well, cool. Okay, here we are. Chapter 9, the Damned Saints. After a while riding in the dark, the truck stops. The back rolls open on the alley where they had picked you up. You get out and watch the running dog's truck pull away from you. You wander out into the street after it. It's close to midnight and the streets are less crowded now. All she wants me to do is join a street gang that's probably full of crazy drug-addled cultists, you think. What could go wrong? Before you figure out where you're going now, you probably need to talk to someone. You figure now that you're on the payroll as a confidential informant. This development will probably be of interest to Detective Toomey. He'd probably like you to earn that 100 he gave you. Of course, Toomey isn't the only person paying you for information. Chris is paying you as a source now, and whatever the Saints are doing, it's probably newsworthy. You need to catch your breath and collect your thoughts before you decide what to do. You walk until you find a bench under a too realistic mural of Moray tigers from the Indian Special Forces rushing from a downed helicopter to take some Pakistani mountainside. The images of blood and fur remind you how your right shoulder still feels tacky under the new dressing. You resist the urge to scratch as you sit with your back to the frozen firefight. You realize that if you're going to call anyone, you'll need to break back into your old apartment and hope your phone's still there. Why can't I call both Toomey and Chris? Why are those mutually exclusive? I'm gonna choose Toomey, though. You get up and finish the short walk to your burnt-out apartment to break in and retrieve your phone. It doesn't really count as breaking in, even though the plywood and gray plastic sheathing quickly went up the front of the building. Around the side opposite your apartment, whole sections of wall have been broken out. Off of the main drive there's a hole big enough for you to step in without ducking, and the only barrier is a long strip of caution tape. Stepping inside is like snorting a line of ash. The smell of burnt wood, melted plastic, shorted electrical wires, hot metal, and dirty steam all hit you at once as you enter the darkened interior. You find the concrete fire stairs intact, and you climb up to what's left of your floor. The fire door is gone, and half the corridor beyond falls into a black abyss, hollowed out of the building's heart by the fire. Fortunately, your apartment is in the other direction, and the floor is unbroken that way. Your apartment wasn't consumed by fire, the only damage is from water and fire retardant saturating the shag carpet, which contributes to the overall stench. Somehow, your bed stayed mostly dry. Most important, your phone is right where you left it. You take out Toomey's card, then you punch in the number. Unfortunately, but not unexpectedly, the detective doesn't answer his phone at this time of night. Civilized humans are asleep at this hour. You barely start leaving a message when the line starts beeping for an incoming call. You switch to it and say, "Hello?" Who's calling? I don't know who's talking. Okay, we'll do a random voice. "Oh, why are you calling at this hour?" "I thought you'd be interested in what just happened between your confidential informant and the running dogs." Wait a second. Who is talking? I say hello. They say Phil. Okay, that's right. "It's the damned saints I'm interested in." That's also what Lucy's interested in. "You've had contact with Lucy Zukov." "Yes." "I'm listening." "You run down the whole evening for Toomey." "Oh, it's Toomey." "Well, okay. He answered the call. I thought I had an incoming call." I can't read, apparently. "You run down the whole evening for Toomey. After you've given him all the info you can think of, he asks, 'What do you feel about doing exactly what Lucy's asking for you?' How do you feel?" "But as your CI, any information on the Saints would be helpful." "Yeah," you tell him. "I suppose that's why I called." "Good," he says. If you do well by him, you can expect another payment out of Toomey's CI fund. If I live through it, you think. Cool! We have the option to call Chris now. We're gonna do that. The phone's screen emits an eerie blue glow across your darkened apartment. You fish out the wrinkled business card Chris had given you, hesitate a moment, and call her number. You wait several long moments expecting her voicemail until a breathless voice answers, "Hello." "Chris Westbrook?" "Yes, who is this?" "Natasha Fohamner." "Fo. I'm sorry, did I wake you?" "No, I was in the shower." After a moment she asks, "Why are you calling so late?" "A lot happened tonight, and I thought your source should fill you in." You tell her about your evening and your run-in with the running dogs. And Lucy. Are you okay?" she asks you. "I'm surviving." Are you going through with what you want? You're going to get involved with the damned saints?" "Looks that way." "This isn't worth risking your life." "I can handle myself," you tell her. "Just be safe," she says. "That's my plan." You end the conversation wondering exactly what your plan is. Okay, I'm just gonna sleep here. You suck in a breath and the air is still heavy with the scent of smoke and recent fire. That's actually a good point. That might be super unhealthy. You stand still for a few minutes contemplating the enormity of the past 48 hours until your reverie is broken by a shuddering yawn. You collapse on your smoke-infused mattress and you're asleep before your head relaxes fully on your soggy pillow. I thought they said the bed was fine! I wouldn't sleep in a wet bed. Ugh. Your dreams are dark and filled with the smell of burning wood and fur. You chase someone, or something, through a maze of rubble made from the remains of burnt-out buildings. Sometimes what you follow is a rabbit with a charred face, sometimes a weird three-headed rat wearing the flayed skin of an unnervingly familiar bear, and sometimes it's a shiny Moreau of indeterminate species who calls back, "You will never know me." You wake from the nightmare to the smell of damp smoke and mildew. You push yourself upright on your ruined mattress and blink around at your ruined apartment. You realize being here represents some sort of denial. You wonder if you're going to be able to move on until you found out exactly why this had happened. Your stomach grumbles and you decide to take care of food first. You make your way down to the street and buy breakfast from the falafel cart you stopped at after the fire. That falafel guy is going to be like some sort of informant for some gang, isn't he? It takes you about an hour or so, but the day is still young when you're back on the street picking bits of breakfast out of your teeth. You feel better than you have in a while, which makes you reluctant to start thinking of what you're going to have to do. Still, at this point, there's no escaping it. Walking away from this is probably the smartest thing to do, or at least it had been until Lucy got involved. Now, doing that would just replace one issue with another. It leaves you wondering exactly what you are going to do. How far should you play along with her game? Well, I do want to play along. I hunt down the weird rat trio. That sounds kind of cool. Yeah, okay. I don't want to find a random crew. I'm going to go with the rat trio. I like those cultists. A sideways approach is best. You know there's a connection between the rat trio and the saints. You just need to find them again and offer to convert. You suspect they may be more welcoming than any gangbangers who used to hang around your building. With the crew from the Essex, you'd have to deal with issues of trust, initiation, and the fact that you were present when one of their people blew themselves up. Also, after taking Toomey's money, you count as a narc. After all that, the fact you're supposedly acting on the orders of a rival gang leader seems almost incidental. You suspect most of that would be lost on the weird trio. That's the hope, anyway. You go and walk around the blocks by your old employer, Nature Foods. That's where the rats caught up with you, and it seems an area ripe for potential converts. Everyone in Moreyland has to go to the grocery store sometime. I didn't realize Nature Foods was the only grocery store in Moreytown. And sure enough, you are barely in the area a quarter hour before someone familiar steps into your path. "Have you heard the good news?" asks a white-furred rat who's barely waist-high on you. He's still dressed in the weird getup, oversized robe of faux fur, hood with a second face stitched on it. You make a point of stifling any reaction to it. Actually, I have. The white rat appears to be about to launch into his spiel when he registers what it is you've said. Black and Brown have stepped up next to him, and you can tell that Brown almost says, "Witness," before he realizes that you've all gone off script. You have? White asks. "The other day, you preached to me," you tell them. You've heard us tell of the Shiny One's path? White asks. "The path to redemption?" Brown asks. "The path to reclaim ourselves?" Black finishes. "You don't remember me," you ask. "Yes," White trails off. "I want to see the Shining One, to hear his message." "The path only welcomes the worthy," White says, falling back into the familiar cadence. "The strong," Black continues. "Those who truly seek themselves," Brown finishes. You don't have a great feeling based on their tone, but you ask anyway. "So, I can join you?" This is our path, take your own path." You try to say something, but they keep going. "The stench of man is upon you. You are not ready to meet yourself. It is too late for your petition." And with that, the weird trio parts and moves away from you, leaving you alone on the sidewalk across the street from your old job. "I thought you wanted converts," you yell at them, to no avail. Well, that was a dead end. Plan B, find some rando saints. Forget Lucy's plan. Yeah, follow the weird rat flyers. You remember the flyers from the first time you saw these guys. They might not want anything to do with you, but if they keep hanging around the same corner, and there, in an overflowing trash bin on the street corner, an edge of a familiar sheet of paper, you pull it out from beneath a half-eaten tofu burger from across the street. You wipe off a spot of organic mustard with your thumb so you can read the announcement of an enlightenment gathering tonight. You now have an address in black and white. Rats or no rats, you could walk right up to the front door. Yeah, let's do that. Now that you've decided what you're going to do, you walk to the address on the flyer to stake at the place before the gathering. Chapter 10, the gathering. So, Chapter 9 seemed really short, implying I skipped a bunch of stuff by mistake. Whatever. 10, the gathering. Thursday evening finds you standing in the shadowed entry of a closed convenience store, watching across a vacant lot toward the site of the gathering. The damned saints have taken an old abandoned mall from the prior century. The buildings cover acres, surrounded by more acres of weed-shot parking lot. The place doesn't just look like a relic from another time, it looks as if it belongs on another planet. The blocky, windowless buildings bearing remains of retail logos that might as well have been some alien script. As the daylight fades, it appears dead and abandoned, but you can smell the mass of a crowd forming somewhere. You wait until it's close to time. Light has faded enough that shadows cloak the remains of the mall. You approach, following the path of the prior people you've seen entering the place. You follow a knot of rodents who could have been the weird rats from earlier, without the elaborate robes. You almost get to the doors when you hear someone shout, "Hey, you!" It's coming from behind you, a canine Moro wearing the Saints gang colors and holding a shotgun loosely in front of him. Play innocent and talk to the guy. You turn around and walk up to the dog challenging you. The shotgun is pointed at the asphalt between you and as the dog growls in an Asian accent you can't identify. I'm not going to do an Asian accent because for some reason society says those are more racist, so I apologize. "Who are you? Haven't seen you here before." "I'm new," you tell him, so I made him Australian. "What are you doing here, Teddy?" "I was told to come here to hear about the Shining One," you say, trying to channel the glazed look you remembered from the weird rats in Francesca. "I'm looking for my path." He looks into your eyes, and slowly it seems there's a dawning of recognition. "You!" "What?" "You're the bear that chased Sister Francesca." You try to move away, but the dog's surprisingly fast as he brings the butt of his shotgun up to the side of your head. Your last thought about the world goes black, before the world goes black, is, "Guess I'm too recognizable." I wonder if that would have been different if I'd been not a bear. For an indeterminate length of time, everything is black and silent. Awareness comes in blurred, indistinct fragments. The rusty smell of your own blood, its metallic taste in your throat, the constriction of something binding your hands at the wrists before you, the musk of 50 or 100 Moros leaking excitement and something faintly chemical. You blink as your consciousness returns, your vision remaining double for an alarmingly long time. 2 pairs of Moros flank you on either side, 2 hold shotguns, and the other 2 hold you by the biceps, keeping you upright. You spit a gob of blood on the floor in front of you, and no one seems to notice. You look around, dizzy from a possible concussion. This place is well lit, and the blazing glare does nothing to help your headache. Fortunately, the lights aren't aimed directly at you, but on the long dry fountain a few meters away. Now your vision's clearing somewhat, you can see that it's been repurposed as a sort of stage. You look away from it, and even past the glare of lights you can see a space packed with Moros of every description. Some wearing the saint's colors, some wearing the weird getup you saw of the proselytizing rats. Apparently, they've given you a front row seat for the gathering. Nothing happens for several minutes. The crowd continues chattering on in hushed tones. The light continues playing off the giant chrome blocks making the backdrop of the fountain/stage. The anticipation in the air is palpable, almost painful. Then the light shuts down with a mechanical thunk. The surrounding audience instantly falls into silence, and you emit an involuntary "what?" You are answered by a shotgun butt to your kidney that leaves you gasping and coughing, but otherwise quiet. The darkness lasts less than a minute. You smell a rising excitement from the crowd, then the lights come on, and you have no question you are looking at the Shining One. He's so shiny. He stands on the stage, feet together, arms outstretched in a cruciform pose, head tilted toward heaven, long tail curled around his legs. He's a massive, muscular, feline Moro, though not quite tiger massive, and his exact species is hard for you to pin down because his fur is a solid, almost translucent white. Under the spotlights, he's quite literally shining. He is also completely naked. Nothing covers his gleaming fur, not a single belt or piece of jewelry. Standing there, you can't help imagining the few pictures of Renaissance art you've seen. If those dead human artists ever could have imagined painting a non-human Christ, this was their model. The odd silence deepens as if the crowd here actually faced the risen Christ in cat skin. You swear half the audience has stopped breathing. The Shining One lowers his head from the heavens and regards his followers. The cat's irises are a pale blue that gleams almost as brightly as the rest of him. You've never seen a Moro like him, but you know almost instinctively what he is. There are so many species of Moro that few births can happen naturally. Most pregnancies happen via charity clinics and artificial insemination. When species are close, like different strains of rat, the offspring might be unremarkable aside from fertility problems. But when you come to orders as varied as Felidae, the progeny of an unexpectedly fertile union, say, between a white tiger and a jaguar, I say jaguar, could be radically different in size and coloring. The Shining One is some sort of hybrid moray, in street parlance, a mule. And you decide that's not something you should bring up with this crowd. He says, "Welcome, my children," and the air fills with a cheer, as awestruck as the silence it obliterates. Our choices again. Psych up for a fight. Study the layout. We're gonna pay attention. You listen intently as the Shining One addresses the crowd. You have been patient, awaiting the doors of paradise to open. You have tolerated the world of the false god man. You have eaten of his bitter fruit. You have drunk from his poisoned well. You have worn his rags, and you have denied what you are, and what was taken from you. From all of us. But your steadfastness will be rewarded. We will claim our own meal, snatch it from the jaws of man, and dine upon it in the forests of heaven. That brings another cheer. The guys guarding you are so enthusiastic that you're surprised they don't fire the shotguns into the air. The Shining One crosses from one side of the stage to the other, and back. Calling the movement pacing seems to do the cat a disservice. His lithe, liquid movements resemble more a slow wave banking in a pool. We are so close now to claiming ourselves that we were once what we once were. Close to tearing down the idols of man. We are the angels of the true God, an angry, wounded God, a God red in tooth and claw. By this time tomorrow, man's God will tremble before the wrath of ours. He is less water now and more stormfront, a barely restrained force of nature. He goes on about how the true God's angels will strike the first blow to topple the God of man, how they'll do so tomorrow, Friday. He will bite the throats of man and those who would serve man. For those who glory in their chains, those who accept the supremacy of man in man's world, they are worse than man himself. I'm saying man so often, it's sounding weird to me. Those that share man's house must share his grave. David's Rally for Peace, an event to try to patch relations between human and Moray, to help them live together. What could be more offensive to the shining cat preaching right now? What could be a better target? What better place to use a suicide vest? This time tomorrow, our warriors will have their share of that meal in paradise, and man will know his days are numbered. And today, do we have supplicants in petitioning for their place at heaven's meal? Bring them forward. You're only half surprised when two sets of hands manhandle. That's not how that's used. You up onto the stage before the Shining One. The white cat turns to you, continuing to address the audience. Welcome the supplicant. Welcome one who is penitent for their sins. Welcome those who come to reject the gods of men and take the sacrament to the shining god of nature. With each welcome, the audience surges in response with their own welcome. The Shining One turns his head to address you. To step on the path to paradise, you must first be reborn. You must take the sacrament and face the gods of our ancient selves. It's easy to see where this is going. You're about to become an unwilling acolyte of the Shining One, almost certainly with some pharmaceutical help. Feign submission until I see an opening. I'm tempted to go along with the plan, but the pharmaceuticals imply to me that any fake attempt would become genuine. That's the last option because you can't see it. I'm sorry. You're on the stage facing the Shining One. He looks upon you with an expression that's half magnanimity, half wild animal. Kneel to those who came before us. Kneel for the blessing you are about to receive. Kneel to the true gods. You fall to your knees before the Shining One. Your head's still swimming from the concussion, and you wince from the pain in your wounded shoulder. Look up into the light. You squint and lift your head into it in a show of obedience. You face up toward the scaffolding above the stage, at the blazing spotlights providing the illumination for the ceremony. The glare sends a dagger into your throbbing head, and you shift your gaze to look out of the corner of your eye. You see your opening. The weird white rat is approaching you with a disposable hypo about to inject your arm. You swing your hand up and clamp them around the rat's arm. The shocked expression he gives you is almost comical as you force the hypo of spirit around and into the Shining One's naked exposed thigh. Yes! You bust the blister with both thumbs pressing on the rats, and the Shining One shifts and does a half stumble to his right, favoring the drugged leg. His slitted pupils open, showing the pale blue of his irises to the edge of each eye. You presume to... You had a fear that he might have had a high tolerance for the sacrament, but it seems you're lucky. Apparently the Shining One is the kind of dealer who doesn't use his own product. You shoulder the staggering white Moro aside and run flat out for the offstage darkness he had come from. Behind you, the Shining One is screaming something about the god's arrival. One of the canine guards grabs you before you get off stage, and you feel a cold stab in your arm, followed by a warmth. You throw a two-handed punch into the dog with your bound hands. You collide with the dog's throat, and he falls away from you. You stumble away into the dark as the spirit starts to take hold. Okay, so that's a pretty dramatic ending. I guess next episode's going to be a spirit quest, which sounds cool, trippy, not lucid at all. I look forward to it. Cool. Signature catchphrase.